So it was time to work on the Bullitt a little bit. I wanted to first of all pull it out of the garage and clean it up a little bit. I had to put it away dirty. It got lightly rained on, and I had to leave and just put it away dirty. So I wanted to come up and clean it. And the other thing I wanted to do was turn the car around, back it out, put it facing the opening of the garage so I can open the hood and change some spark plugs, or at least check the gap on them. Like I said, every time I buy a car, I like to check the spark plugs to make sure they're tight, make sure that they're not loose in there. And the guy I had sold this to did change the plugs at one point, and so I just want to double check and make sure they're okay so that I don't blame myself in case it spit a spark plug out or had a problem. And so I just wanted to start by cleaning up the car, and then I wanted to get the car pulled out and backed into the garage where I could work on it some more. And the car's been sitting for several days, and so the cold start is a little bit rough. And I mean, some people really like a rough cold start with cams because it kind of lopes and tries to catch itself, and that's all fine. But it also has the PP-RV delete in the tank. It has a Terminator fuel tank in it with twin pumps. They're the SVT Focus pumps, and I have the PP-RV delete, the positive pressure release valve. And some people with Terminators have claimed to have issues shifting between gears and having that check valve shorten fuel supply for just a split second. And that's also eliminated on my red Terminator. But anyway, because of that, you'll see it's kind of hard to start. And so something I remembered as I did this that I had forgotten about is that when you do the Torque Tech kit on these GTs, on the 2-valve engines, the new intake manifold on the lower replaces the lower intake manifold that would be on the Bullitt intake. And so it actually puts the fuel injectors in just a slightly different spot, and the whole rail is more over the ignition coils than it used to be, so they're harder to get to. But here's the plugs, a little bit light. I know the car dynoed at 520, and I think that's kind of pushing it, but that's alright. I'll just be easy with it. Put a little splash of VP in it to make sure everything's good. I wanted to re-gap these plugs, take them down to 32. I have the feeler gauge for that, and so that's what I'm doing here with my gapping tool and the vise. And then to test the car, make sure there's no misfires or issues, I do a 5th gear pull at low load and make sure there's no hesitation. But I had a little surprise. so the Bullitt ran really well. That pull in first gear wasn't hesitation or anything. I was pedaling the throttle because I knew there'd be a lot of wheel spin in first gear with those tires, so I did have to pedal it just to keep it from over revving the engine and everything. But as you saw in the highway pull, I had it in fifth gear, kind of low RPM, had my foot to the floor, and I was going slightly uphill, so there was load on the engine, and usually that's how I tell if there's any misfires or hesitations, and there weren't. But just to be clear, I don't drive the car like that a lot. I don't do fifth gear pulls. That builds up a lot of heat. It can have low speed detonation from that, so I'm not doing that all the time. I only do that to test to make sure there's not a misfire, and when I do it's only a few seconds, and so I just want to clear that up. Fifth gear pulls or overdrive gear pulls are not good for supercharged or boosted cars. And so that's why I was doing that pull, and that's why you see me look at the gauges, and then at that point everything was fine. There weren't any misfires, there weren't any problems. Then that's why in that video you see me say, oh good, and then I look up and the hood scoop came flying off, and that hood scoop's been a little bit of a problem lately, and it made it the 6-hour drive home just fine, but it's needing to be addressed. And I looked at the car and I thought about putting a cowl hood on it, and I thought about a Terminator hood, and I thought about a 9901 Cobra hood or the 0304 V6 hood, which is the same thing, and I still just want to keep the Bullitt looking the way it should. I really think that the car should have the GT hood on it as much as I can keep it that way. So I have some things I'm working on right now. I bought some supplies to put the scoop back on. I don't know if it's going to hold, and we'll see. I'll just have to keep it under 150 miles an hour. But anyway, Bullitt's doing well. Stay tuned for the next update. I'm going to be working on it some more here pretty soon. Thanks for all the support and all the great comments. I really love reading the comments and what everyone has to say about it. And stay tuned for more stories and Mustang content.